Hey everybody, it's Rob Jolliffe, and today I'm going to talk about controlled goods, ITAR, CMMC, especially from a Canadian point of view. So let's jump into it. All right, so this is an Ask the IT Expert video from Sabre Limited, and today what I want to talk about is a little bit different. I want to talk about controlled goods and CMMC, particularly as it relates to Canada and IT services. So once again, my name is Rob Jolliffe. I'm the president of Sabre Limited. We're an IT company dedicated to servicing the manufacturing industry, and I am an expert in IT services, ERP, and supply chain. So like I said, we're dedicated to manufacturing IT services, which segues really well into today's subject. Before I get going, down in the description below, there is going to be a link to my calendar through Calendly. And if you're interested in this topic or any other topic that I discuss and you want to ask me some questions, please don't hesitate to go down, find that link and book a 30-minute call with me. If you could, before we have the call, if you could put in what you want to discuss. There's a place to just describe what topic you want to talk about so that I can prepare for the meeting. That would be really fantastic. I would greatly appreciate that. Okay, let's take a look at this. So CMMC, controlled goods, and ITAR from an IT point of view, and very particularly around Canada, because the ITAR program and the controlled goods program are essentially the same program. One is the Canadian version, one is the US version. But the CGP, the controlled goods program, is what I want to talk about a little bit today because, hey, I had to do my CGP renewal recently. So you get interviewed, they come in, they look at your facility, they want to make sure you don't have any parts for the F-35 hanging around, and by the way, like I mentioned earlier, the CGP, the Controlled Goods Program, is identical to the ITAR program, and actually there's an exemption. The ITAR program can use CGP program members, or CGP can use ITAR program members interchangeably. It's, I believe, the only country on Earth that the U.S. Has this reciprocal relationship with. So CGP licenses or ITAR licenses are held by a lot of manufacturing companies. And this is part of the reason why we have it, because in order to do business with those companies, you have to be yourself CGP members. And the programs are designed for companies who are supposed to be handling controlled goods. So once again, some component of some military equipment typically, or it could be police equipment. Normally it's something used in the defense industry. So you're making parts, and those parts can be used in the defense industry. You need to have this. But these programs also refer to the CAD drawings, not just the parts themselves. And I think this is what gets a little bit lost, because from my point of view as a CGP holder, it's all about the drawings and the designs. It's not really at all about the physical controlled goods. My people should not touch the physical controlled goods. They shouldn't really have access to them. I mean, they're going to walk through the plant where the controlled goods are, but they're going to be escorted. It's the CAD drawings and those design documents that really matters. And in the CMMC program, which we're going to talk about a little bit more later, these are called unclassified confidential information, or UCI, and they are the controls that the entire cyber program of the CMMC is put to control. But as a CGP member, it's really, I had to explain to my auditor how I would never take customers' CAD drawings and bring them off, like take them off their systems for any reason. I might have to take a computer server home, or not home, but to the offices so that we can work on it. But my team have access to this. So my team members have access to this, and I have staff that aren't allowed to go into certain customer systems, and they're locked out of those systems. Even though they're part of our overall IT team, only members who qualify for the program, which means they have to be citizens, they have to clear a criminal background check, etc. Only those members of the program are actually eligible to have access to that confidential information. So therefore, by the way, if you are a company that's ITAR or CGP in anywhere in North America, your IT company has to also be ITAR or CGP. And I didn't know that. I actually thought that you could exempt them. You could decide, yeah, okay, that's fine. But they have access to the controlled goods. They could remove them because the CAD drawings. You must actually use a CGP or ITAR licensed business or registered business if you, as your IT provider, if they have any access at all to those files. And by the way, if they are your IT provider, they have access to those files. So anyway, I thought I wanted to put that into this video as a really quick little note. Okay. The second thing I want to talk about is CMMC in Canada in July 2023, because I had the opportunity to talk to the officer from the Controlled Goods Program about this, and I wanted to just pick his brains and say what's happening with the CMMC. Is that coming to Canada? And essentially, he said, we know about it, and nobody's telling us anything. So once again, for Canadians, no news. Unfortunately, we have no idea what's going on with the CMMC with Canadian companies. But I'll I have my own thoughts about that. So what we are seeing, though, is Canadian companies are beginning to come forward and saying, hey, we want to be ready for the CMMC. We want to have everything in place that the CMMC requires for Canada to release its own version of it, or for the US to exempt Canadian companies and allow them to become CMMC members if they're also in the CGP. So what we're expecting is that something is going to happen, and Canadian companies are starting to take advantage of that. So what that really means from an IT point of view, because I only really care about the CMMC from an IT point of view, is something called NIST 800. So the CMMC is basically taking the CGP or the ITAR and adding NIST 800 onto it. Now that's a bit oversimplified. It's a tad trickier than that, but that is essentially what it is. And NIST 800 is a cybersecurity standard from the National Institute of Standards and Technology in the US. There are other bodies that have created similar standards, but basically, if your company has implemented the NIST 800 standard and your CGP or ITAR, you're going to be probably 90% of what you need to be for CMMC. That from our research, that seems to be really what CMMC is requiring. Now, within NIST 800, there aren't as many. Like there are some, but there aren't as many little nuances as IT professionals when we're implementing solutions as CMMC has. So CMMC, for instance, there are certain manufacturers of computer chips that if their chips are present in the computers that you might be using would not be CMMC compliant. Now that's a little hard to manage because I'll give you an example. Lenovo makes some computers that are compliant with CMMC and some that are not. Dell makes more computers that are compliant with CMMC, but many computers that are not. So you actually have to get down to the computer level as to which one you can use or not use. And this is probably going to be one of the big expenses for companies, because we may go in and look at a CMMC implementation in your NIST. You have your NIST 800, you got everything, all the controls in place and everything's good, but your computers are not CMMC compliant because they have probably a Chinese manufactured chip in it that CMMC, that the US government is saying you can't have that chip in a computer in your facility and be CMMC. So I mentioned earlier that NIST 800 has analogs, has other versions, if you will. So the ISO 27001 standard and the NIST 800 standard are really similar. The CIS controls level 3 is also really similar to the full NIST. Now, NIST and ISO and CIS all come in different levels. And I mentioned level 3. The CMMC requires the top level of these. It's not just the intermediate or mid-level. You have to go to you've really got to put in the full implementation. So if you were to implement ISO 27001 or CIS controls level 3 or NIST 800, the full set of NIST 800 controls, you're probably functionally identical. For the purposes of CMMC. There might be very small adjustments that need to be made. We personally recommend the CIS controls level 3, level 2, or level 3. Level 2 is what your cyber insurance companies today want. Level 3 is what CMMC wants. And actually, we have an ebook on the website which outlines sort of cybersecurity fundamentals and it explains the CIS level 3 controls. So let me wrap up. CGP and ITAR holders must use IT companies that are either CGP or ITAR. And this was a bit of a shock to me that I didn't realize that. But if you have a contractor who is not a on payroll employee and they are working for you, they have to be CGP or ITAR holders themselves. They need to have the license. CMMC is still up in the air in Canada. We still don't know what's going on, but I'll just add my 2 cents, 5 cents, 10 cents. Inflation is going up. Canada is totally and fully integrated into the U.S. defense industry. The Canadian manufacturing industry, if you were to cut it off, you'd cut 10, 20% of the U.S. defense industry out and of critical components. So there's just no way it's going to happen. There's going to be a solution. What Canadian companies are doing right now is they're starting to implement the same controls, the cybersecurity controls that CMMC calls for, so that they're ready, so that at that point in time when they have to do something, they're ready to go. And the ISO 27001, the NIST 800, and the CIM controls, they all kind of they're more or less compliant. So any one of those being implemented would probably get you at least 90% of the way there. And it's the full level of those controls that needs to be implemented. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel to get informed of new videos that I'm releasing. Also, you can contact me with these this contact information. And finally, please don't forget there is a Cybersecurity Fundamentals ebook on our website. It'd be under Resources eBooks, or if you go into the IT menu on sabrelimited.com, you probably find it in there. I think it's on the left-hand side as of the recording of this video. Thanks very much for watching, and have a great day.